and a drummer as well too. And you had a song called "Drummer Girl" and also "Solitude," "Reaching Up," and more. You can just tell us about some of your songs as well.
Well, Drummer Girl is what I titled the album, and I spent a few years with a friend of mine named John Maddox. He's also a drummer, but he's got a studio in his garage, and he's just a great producer. And I've been writing songs my whole life, and so I decided to treat myself to spending time with John and creating professional recordings that represent my songs better than I'm capable of doing on my own, because my singing voice is marginal.
Mm-hmm.
And but I've got Bob Cowsills singing on a few of the tracks, and a lot of my friends who really are great singers. There are a few songs that I sang lead on, but mostly I'm singing harmonies. I love rich harmonies, and I kind of grew up on the Cowsills and the Mills Brothers, the Bee Gees, and so I'm kind of like a melody harmony freak. So my music is really pop with just a lot of like rich harmonies, and I just love that sound. And so that album is called Drummer Girl, and you can find it on iTunes.
That is amazing too. You talk about some of the singers with the rich harmonies and the melodies and everything else. Who are some of your other favorite singers growing up, as well as actors and some of the TV shows you enjoyed watching?
You mean as a child?
Correct, yes.
So let's see, I would always put the Beatles up there, and I mean, I like so much that it's just hard to make lists, but
off the top of the head is fine too. So there's no right or wrong answers, as you know. So,
so Carole King, and the Eagles, and everything from the British invasion, and I'm a big Motown freak, and let's see. Yeah, I could have prepared a list in advance, but it's just hard to name something that I don't like.
mm-hmm.
I wasn't into heavy metal ever, but I'm pretty much into everything else. I love country music. I love pop and kind of everything in between, but I'm mostly into melody and harmony.
That's
and so
that sounds. Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, like if you're gonna say, let's see. I think you've stumped me.
When it comes to actors or TV shows, I'm trying to think which one.
Oh, acting. Oh, like as a kid growing up, I was very into Mary Tyler Moore and Dick Van Dyke. And my memories are just like the stuff that was on when you'd come home, like the reruns that were on when you'd come home, like Leave It to Beaver and I Love Lucy, just watching that with my siblings and just laughing together and learning together what's funny,
mm-hmm.
What you find funny, and
mm-hmm.
you kind of carving out what's my sense of humor, what's our sense of humor, what makes us laugh together.
Right.
That's one of the beauties of having siblings, is like discovering together what your own inside jokes are and what you find to be amusing or ludicrous or silly. And sometimes you're just laughing at things that other people wouldn't understand because it means something special to you
mm-hmm.
and your siblings.
It sounds important too. And I was going to mention on how to annoy people as well too. I know of people that just love to annoy people just to get some attention as well too. And of course there's shows on that as well too. And of course cartoons are also a big influence as well too. So that's got to shape up on some of your life and career as well too.
Yeah, I just wasn't as much into like cartoons or the Three Stooges where people are annoying each other. I was more into something that was just really clever
mm-hmm.
or witty.
Uh-huh.
So you get into like when I moved out to Hollywood, and I got a job as a page. I worked on all of the Norman Lear sitcoms. So I had grown up on All in the Family and, watching things that were groundbreaking and where someone was using humor to help us see something that we needed to see. And that's the kind of stuff that I always really appreciated. And a lot of the Norman Lear sitcoms started to get into social issues and help people really understand. And so I got to work on The Jeffersons and One Day at a Time, Different Strokes, Facts of Life. And yeah, I appreciate things that aren't just funny or aren't just someone trying to poke someone else in the eye, but you're laughing because it's like, oh my God, that's so true. And when you're watching a comedian with your friend and you start smacking each other, you're smacking each other because you both know that what they're saying is true.
I can relate as well, too. I totally understand. Of course, we got a few minutes here with Louise Palanker, the co-founder of Premier Networks and also the host of Things I Found Online. You can also look online as well, too, thingsifoundonline.com. And what do you consider your favorite projects of all the things you've done? What are the most challenging and what's your most memorable moment when it comes to radio or anything else?
I think making the Cowsills movie was the most challenging because, like, with Premiere, it really felt like 1 year rolled into the next, and that I had partners who were supporting me. Like my partners, Tim Kelly, Steve Lehman, Ed Mann, and Craig Kitchen. We were all a really rare blend, so that they were strong where I was weak. I was always in the trenches with the creators, creating content, and so we had like a really kind of a brother and sisterhood. There's no reruns in syndicated radio. You're cranking out a show every week, and and the number of shows that we had was monumental. So we just never stopped. If there was a holiday coming, you had to double up. You just had to keep going and keep going. So sometimes you were just giddy and just ridiculous. And so it was like what I was telling you about with watching I Love Lucy with my siblings. It was like you have these relationships and you have this language that you speak. And so that seemed like really natural. And then when I was making the Cowsills movie, I was on my own and I was trying to figure out how do you make a movie? And then I'm trying to figure out how do you make a movie that best represents these people? It's their lives, it's their story. I have to show that the correct amount of respect because I'm not telling my story, I'm telling their story. So the responsibility level and the learning curve, that was a lot. And so it feels like, I don't know if it's because the Cowsills is closer in history, like time-wise, that I think it was harder than Premiere. But I think it was harder than Premiere because I was doing it by myself and I had people along the way who really helped me and contributed. But at the end of the day, if I didn't keep going, that film wasn't going to be completed. And so when we finally got the film on Showtime, it really felt like quite a victory. And I'm really proud too, because I feel like the film telling the story of the Cowsills has really helped them. And they've been on the road with the Turtles, the Happy Together tour every summer since the film came out. And they're making new music right now, and they're happy and they're able to share their talent, and they're able to be where they belong, where I always felt as a kid that they belonged, which is sharing their talent and having a spotlight shined on them. It seemed like they disappeared and it wasn't fair, and that, as John Cowsill said in the film, they were taken down a rough road, and they weren't raised to soar as adults. They were used as children, and they weren't. When you raise children, you're raising people that are future adults. You're not like taking the child and saying, I'm going to exploit your talent, but not prepare you for adult life. And so I just hope that and I know because I have a YouTube channel and a playlist devoted to all of the outtakes and special cuts and behind the scenes features and stuff. So I can see all the comments of people that had a similar childhood who could really relate and hear the story and think I want to just give these people a hug because I went through something similar and I know what it feels like. And you guys are good and you've always been good and you deserve to be heard.
Mm-hmm.
So that is what makes me feel proud. What makes me feel the most proud, I think, right now is the Cowsills film.
And of course, we also talked about the social outlets as well, too, like with the Kids Comedy Club in L.A. and, of course, our place as well, too. And, of course, just one more thing here before we get to how can people reach you and everything and maybe some help and advice and everything. And you did touch about the Cowsills and what they actually went through. What best of, or should I say this? Oh, boy, what a day here. So who's the biggest influence in your career, you would say?
I mean, I don't really think I had a mentor. I can't think of a mentor that I had.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really know. I try to be a mentor to everybody. I have a bunch of kids that are adults, and I feel like they're all my kids, and I never had my own children. And I think that has given me the energy to be a mentor. I think when people have their own children, that like they're programmed to like, okay, I've reproduced and this person is my responsibility. And then that's a focus that you just have to have. And so I really give all of my applause to the parents because those are the real heroes in life, I feel. And so if I can do a little bit as a mentor, that's my honor to do so. But I feel like the kids that I've worked with and the kids that are now adults, maybe that's an even greater achievement than making a movie about the Cowsills. But I do see the Cowsills as like former kids. Like we're all former kids, right?
Right.
So everyone needs help, support, someone to listen. And I just try to be that person.
That is amazing. I just love your story as well, too. And what is the best advice you can give right now getting into, like say, with the show business, radio, or all the ventures you've done? What's just the best advice you can give to anyone at this point?
The best thing you can do is do your dream. And as I mentioned earlier in this conversation, like technology makes it possible for everybody. Even if you want to just put it into a Gmail draft, whatever it is, start writing it up. Like, what do you want to do? What are your goals? What are your dreams? What do you envision? Like, oh, I want to start a restaurant. Open a Gmail draft or email, whatever email you just open a draft. Don't send it. Don't put anything in the field where you would send it to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Don't accidentally send it to anybody. Just start writing it up. What is your dream? This is what I would like to do. Because job one is you have to make a living and you have to support yourself. Okay, once you're doing that, everything else that you've always thought maybe that you would be good at, open up a draft and start writing it out. And then you can go to places like Meetup, for example, and you can find if there's a meetup near you where other people have the same dream. And, just talking it out loud or typing it makes it more real. It's not just in your, it's an actual thing. I can pull up this draft and look at this like, oh, I'm going to open this restaurant. I'm going to cook this kind of food. But I don't know anything about business. Well, someone who does. So start talking to people and just start articulating, this is what my dream is. And if it's something creative, there's just so many tools now that you can use to start creating and post it somewhere. There's so many different social networks where you can post something. You can keep it on private until you're ready to share it with somebody. So do it. It's not just dream it. My advice is do it in whatever fashion possible, even if it's just typing up the idea. Do something every day that contributes towards that dream. Even if you just write a new sentence every day about what your restaurant is going to look like. Mm-hmm. At least every day you'll feel like I did something towards this dream. I think we're happiest when we're contributing. And be someone who makes someone else's day better.
Mm-hmm. That is amazing. I love it. And Louise, just wanted to say thank you very much for your time here. And before we wrap up here, we know you're very busy with a lot of projects. Once again, tell us about your upcoming projects, what's your website, and what is your podcast, and how do people listen online, and how can people contact you?